We have a double whammy. Look, I said this, I've been saying this the whole show. Weather alert, storms, potential flooding. So that is a situation that we're dealing with right now. I want to bring in meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees, who is here. Brittany, thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us. I guess first question for you, what are we looking at right now? I know the heat has been a big thing the past couple of days, but it's not as hot today.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's still pretty humid. Still kind of gross outside. But yes, it is not as hot. Yesterday we had a heat index peak at 102, which is normally just below our criteria to go weather alert, but the high was 98. So give or take. Today, not quite as hot, but we're still expecting most areas to be in the mid-90s. Of course, rain-cooled air is going to help a little bit with this, but it is certainly feeling stickier than it was even last week when we had, 17 days in a row, temperatures at or above 90. While those started near our dangerous heat, they kind of ended as we got the breezy and cooler air on Sunday, of course, thanks to Chantal. So the peak heat index the next few days, again, still going to be below heat advisory criteria, but a lot of this comes with, again, additional storm activity, which I think is going to be very, very noticeable, especially in the afternoons. I do want to point out this, might seem a little bit silly for me to be saying it, but I've been getting a lot of text, emails, even just from friends and family who live in the Carolinas, that even though we are under flood risk today, this is nothing like what they saw in Texas on the 4th of July holiday. So I just want to, if that helps curb anybody's stress level, I just want to go ahead and make that clear. It is not Helene level. I know you hear the...
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No,
I was
you're
about to say Chantal level. What about Chantal?
Yeah, nothing.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
the areas in the North Carolina that, of course, aren't local that were impacted by them, they also have a chance to see flooding. But even that flooding wasn't necessarily, to the extent that Texas saw. When you have a lot of, water sources and a lot of rain being funneled into them. And I think that that's a big thing too. Sorry to get off topic slightly, but I was seeing a lot of things online about people asking, like, how could a river rise 25 feet when you only had 5 to 10 inches of rain? And it's because essentially all those different waterways are part of a watershed, right? So it's like a funnel. So it funnels into the same area. That's how you get water to rise so quickly, especially if you're at a lower elevation. So different conversation for a different story. Let's talk about today. So we have the kind of double whammy here of the fact that it's hot, the fact that we have strong to severe storms, and I guess more of a triple whammy is the fact that we're also getting that flooding risk on top of it. Now, the flood itself risk comes from slow-moving storms. So we've already kind of seen some of these moving through parts of the mountains. You can see Ashwaubenon, Avery County, some pockets of heavy rain. No severe weather here just yet, but normally when you see our severe weather risk, we're always focused in on winds and hail. That is not necessarily the case today. I think it's more winds and flooding. Hail risk is very, very low because we really just don't have a lot of cold air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere because it is so dang hot outside. Futurecast rainfall, I will remind folks that when you look at rainfall totals, this is not, we always say it's not gospel, it's guidance. So it's generally showing you what could happen. And if you're talking about a very, very isolated risk for heavy rain, such as what we have with Chantal, it's showing you the general idea, right? Like the general area that has a better chance to see heavy rain. Right now, it does look like that's going to be primarily along and southeast of the Charlotte area. I think the mountains will certainly see rain, but a lot of the heaviest rain, a lot of the significant downpours look to be more so toward the Charlotte metro. And that's just because of where the moisture is coming from. Stalled cold front, slow moving pattern as we have warm moist air coming in from not just the Gulf, but also the Gulf Stream, which is right off the coast in the western Atlantic. And so you fuel all of that moisture on top of already having a lot of moisture present and lift from the cold front, and that's what's causing multiple days with higher rain chances. Wednesday, flood risk is moderate for most of the area. You see that little sliver, I'm going to back up for a second. The little sliver of red, that's mostly those areas that were hard hit by Chantal. So of course they have a higher risk for flooding because they already are very, very saturated. Moderate risk for us, a little bit lower there for Thursday, and then lesser rainfall potential on Friday. In fact, I'm kind of on the edge whether or not we should be weather alert, based on our significant criteria on Friday. Weather alert, main reason, right, is to let you guys know ahead of time. So whether you see that little icon come off or not, it's truly neither here nor there. But I just know Friday will be less in terms of heat as well as less in terms of rain chances. There is a flood watch in effect for Stanley County, Anson, and Richmond. This literally looks exactly like the map that we had over the weekend with Chantal because that is essentially where the heaviest rain was setting up. So here's a look at Futurecast for the rest of the afternoon. Again, heavy rain off and on for most of the afternoon. If you had plans to get outside, I would make sure you're keeping a very close eye on radar. Remember, when thunder roars, move indoors. It's not just the risk from flooding, but it's also the lightning and the thunder. Same thing on Thursday. Overall, I think today is still the heaviest rain event. So we have the majority of our storms today, lesser Thursday, and then even lesser than that on Friday. It doesn't mean you won't see storms. It's just that the overall coverage is less. And I think when you see rain chances the next few days, well, a lot of rain chances just based on what the actual meteorological reason why we do percentage of precipitation. You can expect that a lot of that has to do with the likeliness that we'll have more coverage, right? So highest rain chances Wednesday because there are most storms, lesser Thursday, and then even lesser on Friday. This specifically, the severe weather outlook, again, winds are going to be number one, flooding is going to be number two. Not really worried about the hail the next few days. At least for us, it's pretty much now through the afternoon. Kind of the same thing on Thursday, right? Heaviest rain coming in by the afternoon and evening after we have all the warmth, all the moisture from all the storms. So next 3 days, gusty winds, heavy rain, also the additional heat, but I think heat's really only an issue for today. It does look like we'll see a drier pattern heading into the weekend, which will be fantastic. Charlotte FC, of course, at home on Saturday. And as we look at the extended forecast, we'll eventually watch some slightly higher rain chances by about this time next week. If you're thinking ahead to Wednesday, the 16th match for Charlotte FC, I think Saturday, the 12th, looks to be a little bit drier than Wednesday, the 16th, but of course, we have time to continue to watch that. So once again, encouraging folks to stay weather aware. Yesterday, the heat, today, kind of the heat and storm mix, but the next few days we'll especially be keeping our close eye on flooding.
And you want to make sure that you have the app handy and all that information.
Yes.
Carlene?
Brittany, I have a question.
Okay, I have something else I want to say also.
Okay.
Okay.
Hopefully my friend Austin is not watching this, but he texted me earlier at 11:56, and he sends me this dumb screenshot of his weather app that comes on his phone.
That's a
Listen
no-no.
here. I
That's a
love
no-no.
Apple. Love the Weather Channel. They do great work. I will say this till I'm blue in the face. Every single time I go to a school talk and a teacher says, what is the one thing that you'd want kids to know, about weather? Your app is crap. We literally call them crap apps in the meteorology community. It is raw model data that is just shoved there. No person is looking at it. No person is looking at where the cold front is, whether or not it shifted west, east, north, south since the last update. It's not looking at, whether or not we have moisture lingering from a tropical system, that was nearby a few days ago. It doesn't know that. Even the models that are built by AI, they're only as good as the forecasters who are trying to teach them to be better. In fact, I know a few weeks ago on the weather impact stream that Brad hosted at 6:30, he was talking about the AI Google model and how it was actually did really well with Helene last year. But guess who did better? The National Hurricane Center. It's because a person is better. They don't know what's going on. So they also don't know model bias, topography. That's a different story for a different day. So please, for the love of all that is holy, do not send your meteorologist friend a screenshot of your Apple Weather app. It is not good. It's not good for a reason, and it also can't forecast based on social science. Your app might say 100% chance of rain because they are 100% positive that you're going to get rain in your backyard. You know what that means? Rain at some point during the day. But you might have your meteorologist friend say, well, if it's going to be dry from midnight to 4 p.m., I'm not going to put 100% chance of rain, because what does a person think 100% chance of rain means? It's going to rain all day.
Just know, I would never do that. I would never.
He was doing it to give me crap, but to which I then responded, he said, this is crazy. I said, those are insanely high. Also, why do you trust an app? He said, I don't, but it's easy. And I said, easy yet wrong. That's my whole point. And he said, fair.
I would never.
I'm sorry, I'm being very dramatic right now, but I have this conversation with my friends all the time. Your app is wrong probably 90% of the time. Brad tracks the WCNC, I'm just saying our weather team specifically's accuracy. It's 95%. Okay, if your significant other cheated on you 90% of the time, you wouldn't keep coming back to them.
That is.
If you're a
look.
car mechanic, drain the coolant from your car, and every single time you got your car back, your car's overheating and you got to go back. Would you keep going back to the mechanic?
No.
No. So why do you keep going back to weather apps that are terrible?
Well, I love the example because, talking to Brittany, talking to Brad and our team, we always are trying to use examples to help it, land.
Yeah.
You want folks to make it resonate because, it
that
just
landed.
Yeah, it landed.
And it's just crazy too because people do seem to be more aware of how bad weather apps are, and I'm just using Charlotte as an example, like during the winter when it's like 9 to 11 inches of snow, and that never happens. But it's like they forget that like when they hit rainy season, and they're like, oh my gosh, 65 to 70% chance of rain every day. My day's ruined. I mean, Brad even used this example. I know a few weeks ago when we were on, I was filling in, so it was the four of us, you, me, Jane, and Brad, about even like the beach. Like you go to Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Charleston, anytime this year, your crappy weather app or the WCNC app, whichever one you use, you know which one's better. I'm looking at you. It's going to say there's a chance of rain. It's summer. We get a sea breeze coming in. Carlene grew up in Charleston. She can tell you it could rain for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And technically the forecast was right because it rained. But that doesn't mean your beach day's ruined.
No.
How many people you see out there who are just like, all right, I'll go under shelter for the 2 minutes of the storm.
And then go back out and get my chair.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You wouldn't cancel your whole beach trip if there was a chance of rain. You
Right.
cancel every
No.
beach trip you've ever had in Carolina
Right.
since
That is fair.
since
To the dawn of time.
That
since
is,
the Lord made the earth.
That
I mean,
is
come
fair.
on.
Yeah.
So sorry, it just struck it.
Carlene,
It's okay.
you had a question?
I did. It is phone related.
Okay.
Okay. Previously here on Live Impact, I told a story about in a previous weather event we had not too long ago. Greg and I were sitting on the couch. Greg, my dear
Oh
boyfriend.
yes, we talked about the wireless emergency alerts.
Yes, the WIA alerts,
Yes.
right? I did not get one. He did. And you came in the next day and was like, you should be getting those.
Yes.
I'm sure I'm not the
remember that,
only
yeah.
one in that scenario where maybe their significant other or whoever, a friend, has got it and they didn't. What should people, like what phone settings should people look for?
So there is a setting under wireless emergency alerts in your phone. I've never turned mine off, so I don't know how exactly to get there, but let's see if I can figure it out. Where essentially there is a feature that some people will turn off because they don't want to get them, for whatever reason in their sleep. I actually don't know how to find them off the top of my head.
I'm putting these first. That's
Yes. Okay,
Oh.
James, please do that. Because I've never turned mine
There
off.
you go.
Okay.
James, I can't read that.
great. I can't either, and
Oh my
Carlene has
gosh.
my microphone.
Oh,
Go
okay,
to
yes.
Go to settings.
Settings.
Notifications.
Notifications.
Okay, I'm doing it right now with you
check,
guys.
Check.
Wait, hold on. Wait, sorry.
We're all
I'm a
doing this
boomer.
together.
Yeah, we're all doing
Wait.
it together. We might as
Okay,
well.
Notifications.
Okay, go to settings.
Go to
Settings.
Settings. Notifications.
Notifications.
Scroll down to the bottom of the screen.
Bottom of the screen.
Under government alerts.
Uh-huh.
There's
Okay.
a toggle for on and off.
Okay.
So there's Amber Alerts, emergency alerts, public safety alerts,
and
test alerts. So people will want to have Amber, public safety, and emergency all turned on. Test, probably not.
Okay, so I have everything on.
Yeah, I have everything on.
Okay,
I have
cool.
everything on, but I also looked at emergency alerts. I have something toggled off that says local awareness.
Okay, so that's probably why it's not coming. Basically, so local awareness, it doesn't mean that they won't come in, but local awareness is Apple using your approximate location to make sure that you're getting it.
Okay.
So if you look really closely, it says Apple can use your approximate location to improve timelines, accuracy, and reliability of the emergency alerts you receive. So that could be something like if your notifications aren't turned on, and like you kind of like if when I'm
That's what it
tracking you
looks
on
like,
Find My
folks.
Friends, right?
That middle one.
That is
I
a-
didn't have it toggled on.
I
That's what it looks
I'm not
like.
gonna lie, I thought that was a screen
didn't
grab
realize
at first,
that. I
because I
was
looked
like,
up.
what's
I was like, wait,
Well,
how did
the-
we get
the
that?
way I'm thinking about this is like, if anybody didn't know, Carlene's one of my best friends. So obviously when I'm tracking you on Find My Friends,
Yep.
like it could say like somewhere in Noda versus like
Yes.
your actual house. That's probably like,
Oh.
and now obviously I can get your actual house, which I will not give your address on Live Impact
Is
News.
this a
but-
service you offer everybody? Personal.
But what I'm saying, no, but it's like, so it's an approximation probably rather than like your exact,
Okay.
Good to know. So
Brittany,
that's
I
my
have another
best
graphic
guess.
here.
Yes.
That you can walk us through. What does this mean?
Well, I don't see. Oh, okay. Thank you, James. Okay, so this is the difference between what you will and will not get with wireless emergency alerts, and this has been a big topic of conversation. I know with like the timeline of how everything happened with the Texas floods, but so every single severe thunderstorm and flash flood warning has a tag on it. So the normal one that you get, severe thunderstorm warning or flash flood warning, is what's called a base. So the base has different criteria. So that's level 1. For considerable or destructive will trigger a wireless emergency alert. And it doesn't use cell phone signal, so you're supposed to get these even if there's not cell phone signal where you are. So my understanding is that government and WS, whatever, they're using like satellite towers and things like that kind of can override the cell phone signal issue. However, just like everything with technology, it's not perfect. So when you live in an area that's very prone to certain weather events or some place like this and have good cell phone signal, this is not a shame thing, it's just the truth. I'm going to use like a camp.
Yeah, yeah.
Having a NOAA weather radio is also really good to have because these are battery powered and they will come through no matter what. So if your internet or if your cell phone signal's not working, the satellite data is not getting to you for your WEA, wireless emergency alert, it's like a backup to a backup. And I don't know how everybody else feels. I like having backups to backups. You should ask
Same.
Majestic as I was training her to do stuff on the weather. I was like, well, this is my backup that I send to myself just in case. Because that's just, so anything in life that you should also have that just in case.
Some great information. You put that out there on the screen.
So for the flash flood warnings specifically, just going back to, so they were not base warnings. They were considerable, which was the level 2, which is the first upgrade that the NWS gave. And then they were updated to the destructive, which is also known as a flash flood emergency. And so that level 2 and level 3 will trigger those. If you ever get one in the Carolinas, we don't get flash flood warnings, of course, as often, but severe thunderstorm warnings, if you're getting considerable or destructive, that is either a higher level of winds, so 70 or 80 miles an hour, or higher level of hail. So instead of quarter size, which is our normal, it could be higher, like golf ball size, things like that. So a normal severe thunderstorm warning would not trigger a WEA in the Carolinas. You guys know how many of those you would get? Hundreds during the summer.
Sure.
But when you do get one, it essentially is telling you that it's been that upgrade.
I got a lot out of this.
I did.
I turned my alerts on.
I know. We got to step
I am one step.
I'm not exaggerating at all. Like, I got a lot out of this important
Would
information.
I dare to assume that you are now more weather aware than
I
you
am.
were before I came in the room?
I am. I'm just as aware as Greg now. Woo!
There you go. Teamwork makes the dream
That's
work.
right.
Brittany Van Voorhees will be back in about 45 minutes ish. Well,
Oh, I know.
I didn't know. I was.
I mean, you told me 1:30 and 2:30. So
Yeah,
that's fine.
about 45 minutes. She'll be back.
I know,
Well,
but you looked at me like.
No. You gave me a look, so I gave you a look.
You can just stay if you want.
If you want to stay.
No, we'll be keeping an eye
yeah.
on things, working on some graphic updates. So.
And 6:30, you can catch Brittany here on Live Weather Impact on WCNC Plus. We have the beautiful graphic up of Brittany.
Yay!
Oh, well, it's me and Brad.
And yeah. But
Oh,
you're
I was
here
like,
right
you're
now.
here
You're
right
here right
now.
now.
Yeah, we're gonna show your
We're gonna
face.
show
Oh,
your
that's so
face.
nice.
We know Brad's gonna be here, but Brittany's
We've
gonna be
seen
here.
Brad before.
Yeah,
before
we know what
you.
Brad looks
I know.
like.
But that's like which you guys both know. That's how I always joke.
We know what Brad looks like.
Do we? No, but I always joke about this. It's not self-deprecation, it's just the truth. But like when they made that, when I was filling from last week, I kept being like, oh my gosh, thank goodness they made this, because if you put Brad's picture up and then it's me, everybody's like, dang it,
No.
turn off WCC Plus.
We love Brittany. She'll be back at 2:30.
But it's always better when it's the two of us together.
Of course.
And 6:30. She might be back sooner than that, but yeah, Brittany's
Yeah.
here all day.
And
So
we'll
All
just
day.
pop in every other hour.
you might.